Welcome back, Doug Pagitt Radio on AM 950, our Right On segment. This is where we end each one of our radio broadcasts with a shout out to those who are doing things that are right, that are good, that are right on in the world. The people who are creating the world in the way that we want it to be. Those who say, I'm not going to be satisfied with simply complaining about the way it has been, but I'm going to make the world in the way that I want it to be. You know, in some ways, and not to keep on the ranting here about the Church in the Event of Age book that'll be out and available August 1st at retailers everywhere. Even though it is August 1st. This whole right-on notion, this whole idea that, like, I have this call out on the show for those who are making the world the way that they want it to be, that in and of itself is a fairly new thing, right? Most people who've lived in human experience have not woken up in the day and said to themselves, I'm going to make the world the way I want it to be. Yeah. Right? I mean, maybe there's been some Eastern kind of thinking that would sort of say, make your world that way. Right. But a lot of us don't wake up and think, I don't want to just make my own personal space the way that I want it. I want to make outer space the way that I want it. You know, I want to create the world that I live in. I want to make radical change across the entire circumstance and system. This has been, you know, a development of civilization over the last 5,000 to 7,000 years that has been about this, and this is really new. Like the idea that a regular average person, not born into any power, not born into any nobility, not born into any system that says the world is yours. Right? There's always been kings who have thought, I think I want to, you know, take over the world today. Right. Mm-hmm. I think I want to be the one who's going to make the world that the way that I want it. But now you have kids waking up in poverty saying to themselves, but it doesn't have to be this way. Yeah. I don't want it to be like that. I'm going to make something out of myself. I'm going to make something the way that I want it in this world. And the fact that we can have a right-on segment on this radio show that says, good for the people who are changing the world, that's so remarkable in and of itself. Yeah. Right? You know what I mean? I mean, am I just kind of overplaying this in some sort of, you know, hippie pie in the sky thing?
No, I mean, there's always negative things to harp on and to pick on, but you rarely hear, you know, about the good things that are going on.
Yeah, and in most people's human experience, they have worried more about if the earth was going to kill them than what impact they're having on the earth. Yeah. Right? Now, and this might be part of, you know, sort of the 21st century narcissism of North Americans and Europeans, the idea that, you know, I know I've got my conservative listeners who are going to say, yeah, so you people think you're actually going to destroy the earth. The earth is much tougher than you think it is. Yeah. That's not what I'm getting at. I'm getting at the fact that people wake up in the morning and don't just think, I wonder if the earth is going to kill me with a tsunami and a hurricane and a tornado or an earthquake or a disease, but they actually say, I wonder if there's something I should do to make the earth better today. Yeah. That kind of shift that we wake up saying, how can we save the earth, not how do we save ourselves from it, is a tremendously different thing. And I'm not sure that human experience, that human culture, that human evolution has gotten to the point where we know what to do with that. Yeah. Like there's a level of power, not just the power to destroy, but the power to create. Right. Like there might have been a period of time when it seemed better for people to be like, we don't really know how babies are made. Like we know that a man having intercourse with a woman creates a baby, but we're not really sure about all the factors that go into that. We're not sure really how all that comes about. Yeah. Like maybe the idea that people know this at a really deep level now changes us in some ways. Yeah. Or we didn't know that if you put a child in a certain kind of learning environment, a certain kind of care environment, that's going to create an activity in their brain that's going to develop in ways that are new. Like maybe we're not used to having this kind of recognition of the power and influence that we have.
Sure, that like with $10 you could feed 124 children in Haiti for a year if you had 3,000 people got together and did that.
Right. The people aren't used to knowing what they're supposed to do, where their own actions, like giving $10 on In410 at in410.org, is something that would actually make a difference in somebody else's life. They can be that fast and that simple and that easy. So anyway, I'm kind of struck by the fact that this right on that we do, when we give this shout out to the right on, in and of itself is this really new experience for people to have, that there's this level of self-awareness that I want to live a life that's going to actually do something of generosity and goodness and beauty creation in the world. And it's a privilege, actually. I mean, I think it's what humans are created for. I would say that the story, the reason that I'm a proclaimer of the Christian story is because I think that people are called to be in relationship with God, to be co-creators with God. that what we're called to do is to participate with God in what God is up to, and that we're not God's subjects, but we're God's partners, that we're not just the workers of God, but we're friends of God. That's what this whole thing is about. And any story that tells it differently, I get a little sideways with it. But I think that's what the story is supposed to be about. And so this Right On really comes out of that kind of impetus to say, this is the kind of life that we want to live in the world, is one in which we get to create something.
Yeah, it seems like the church has monopolized the idea of, well, there's evil out there, we must protect ourselves from evil and insulate ourselves, but doesn't do a good job of recognizing the good out there where God may actually be at work.
Yes, yeah, isn't that true? And maybe in that whole construct, the real problem is that there's an out there there. That there's an in here and an out there.
Absolutely.
I don't even know how people get that kind of notion. Well, here's who the shout out goes to. Here's who the Right On goes to. It's those who are creating. I'm going to get all trippy. I'm going to start sounding like some of the shows later in the afternoon. Maybe I'll have me on one of those shows. Those who are creating harmonic resonance. Those who are creating acoustic resonance. Here's where it came up.
Let's go deeper.
Yeah, and the Right Out goes to John, this guy I talked to last week, listening in North Carolina. John, so the shout out goes to you. He said to me, we're talking about religion, and we're talking about the show, and we're talking about all this kind of stuff. And he said, there's this understanding in physics. He was a physicist. So there's an understanding in physics called harmonic resonance. And he said it's most clearly seen in a tuning fork. And some of us know that you strike a tuning fork, and if it's made out of a certain kind of material at a certain length with the distance between the prongs, that it will strike a particular chord, a particular note. So a C or something, you can strike this chord and it will produce that sound. But he said also, when that sound is produced, the tuning fork will start to vibrate. That when that particular resonance hits it, that particular acoustical or harmonic resonance, it will cause the tuning fork to move. And he said, that's kind of how I think we live our lives, is we go around and we're listening in lots of ways to those, and we find those sounds, those messages, those stories, that music that strikes us at some sort of a deep personal sense. And he calls it a spiritual sense, at that deep spiritual sense in which there's this vibration in us that starts to find that accord.
Yeah.
So the call out, the Right On goes to those who say, we're going to play our tune.
Yeah.
We're going to play our chord. And it might just strike with some of you. And those of you who find your harmonic resonance, you find that story that strikes you, you find that thing that you say, I just know it, and it's good, and it's right, and it resonates with me. It vibrates in me. It brings life in me. To those who are creating that and to those who are finding it, you get the Right On. You're up to something in this world. We're up to something where we create the kind of world we want, where we're going to send out these tunes. We're going to send out these chords. And in that, other people are going to start to resonate with us. They're going to start to find us. And those of you who already watched Battlestar Galactica, you know what I'm talking about. Geeking out on you. So those of you who are sending out the vibe, and those of you who are starting to vibrate, you get the Right On. Right On for all of us, whose hope brings us hope, whose faith brings us faith, and whose love brings us love. Hey, stay in peace, folks. We'll be back and chat with you again next week. Doug Pagitt Radio on AM 950 and DougPagittRadio.com.